first thing I've already done is I went ahead and completed my right side so that we can have a good template or an example to follow. So the first thing that I want to do is fill in my brow. Now I'm going to go against everything you guys know that I stand for, and I'm using a black pencil. This is NYX. It's just a regular black brow pencil, and I'm just doing it because obviously, you know, the Egyptian was all about a lot of black. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my brow, making sure to go back and forth so that they're symmetrical. So, and you're gonna have that sharp point, you know, at the tip. So we're just gonna follow the natural arch of the brow. And I'm also going to make the tail end a little bit longer than usual. Longer and lower. And then fill the rest in accordingly. And continue to fill in all the way around. So it's pretty long for an eyebrow, but we were going for that overly exaggerated brow. And to kind of add to this brow, I'm going to do something that I normally like to do. I'm going to take some NW45 concealer and my 249 flat shader brush, and underneath along the bottom of the brow, I'm just going to make sure that that line is just a little bit more precise. Just to clean it up a bit. Don't be afraid to make it really long and exaggerated. Just don't do what you would normally do. This is Halloween, you know. Exaggerate a little bit. Okay, let's take that black pencil we had before, that NYX brow pencil or whatever it is you're working with, and we're going to start to trace the shape of this eye design that I have here. Now, it starts off winged in on the inner corners. So go ahead and make that point. Don't worry if it's not perfect. We're going to clean it up later. And then I started along the bottom. Dragged it underneath. And make it a point to kind of watch as you go. To go back and forth between looking at this side, just making sure that they're as symmetrical as possible. And then make that bottom point. Start up at the top, the lid, and like I said, don't worry if that's not perfect. We will clean that up later. I'm going to, as far as filling in the rest of the eye, I'm going to take my NYX black jumbo pencil, black bean, and I'm just going to fill in wherever that liner couldn't get. And I'm also going to make it a point to line my waterline. I'm going to take my 252 MAC shader brush, and I'm just going to blend out that black bean. And then on top of that black bean, I'm going to set it with a black eyeshadow. You can use Carbon, you can use whatever matte black, whatever you have. I'm going to go ahead and use some Carbon to set all that black. And that's what's really going to make it darker and make it last longer. So literally just patting that on top of wherever we apply that black. You can even sweep some along the bottom if that's what you want to do. Okay, this is kind of where the cleaning up takes place. I'm going to go back to that 252 brush. I'm sorry, my 249 brush. the one that I use for my brows, and I'm going to go back to my Studio Finish concealer, and I'm going to take a bit of that along the bottom of where I applied the black, and I'm going to clean that up, make the lines more precise. I'm going to drag this out in the bottom a little bit more so that it looks a little bit more smokier down here. And then I'm going to take it along the top also. Clean up those lines. And that's how we're going to get our perfectly chisel tip liner down here. So there's pretty much the eye portion. I'm going to take my Select Cover Up Concealer. This is NW40. You want something that's a little bit lighter than your skin tone. This is pretty much what I do in my everyday skin tone. I'm sorry, my everyday foundation regimen anyways. And I'm going to take another flat shader brush. This is the 190. This is more suitable for foundation. It's just bigger. I'm going to take a bit of that. Doesn't take much. And I'm going to start to sweep this underneath the eye. And you really want to see that contrast. This is, you know, I'm applying this as a highlight. You really want it to stand out. So make sure you use something that's a little bit lighter than you. And if you have to, don't be afraid to reapply a little bit more and to really, really pack it on, because you want this to be really, really flawless. And it's also going to help that highlight that we're going to use along our cheekbones stand out a little bit more. So just keep blending that out pretty much until it dries. And also don't be afraid to drag it down so that there's an even transition of color between the concealer and your skin tone, because you can see it's not my skin tone. It's a little bit lighter than me. But what I'm going to do to help blend that out a little bit better, I'm going to take my Select Cover Up, my Mineralized Skin Finish in Deep Dark, and then I'm going to take a large shader brush, or you know what, I'll just use my 129. You can use any powder brush of choice. This is my 129. And along the edges of that, just sweep along the edges of it, just so that it looks a little bit more natural. That's pretty much all you need. I'm going to go ahead and contour using my 109 brush, flat buffer, or whatever buffer brush that you prefer. And I'm going to use a Pro product. This is called, let's see, Shadowy. This is a MAC Pro. This is a MAC Pro contour powder. So that means you can only find them at MAC Pro stores. You cannot find them at regular MAC stores. And I'm going to actually use a little bit of that. If you don't have that, you can use like Embark. Depending on how, if you're about my complexion, you can use Embark. But I'm going to take a little bit of that, get that on my brush. And I'm actually going to use just a teeny bit of carbon. Just a little. Like just dab once in there. Dust off if you have to. And along those cheekbones, I'm just going in one direction, and I'm slightly buffing that along the hollows of my cheekbones. And if you need to use the top of your ear as a guideline, you can. And I chose to use the carbon because you definitely get a little bit more of a defined contour. It's definitely a little bit dark for my everyday liking, but you know, I'm definitely getting the contoured look that I wanted to achieve. But if some of you out there are a little bit darker than me, then I don't see why you couldn't use carbon on a daily basis. You just have to be really, really careful with it. So that's pretty much it for contour. For the blush, I'm going to use one of my favorite blushes, and you're going to want to use something that's kind of like, I don't want to say bronzy without you thinking of like the summer, but this is Format by MAC. It kind of has a cocoa bronze finish on women of color. I'm going to go back to my 129 blush brush, And I'm actually going to go back and forth between format and then dip that into some raisin a little bit just to give it some more color. That's a lot of blush. Don't be afraid to apply a lot. Just go all out. I'm doing it all along my cheekbones. For my highlight, I'm using a Pro Pigment by MAC, which once again, this can only be found at pro stores. And this is a sample size that I purchased a couple years ago. This is as gold gets. I'm pretty sure MAC only has one product like this. You can't miss it. Like, you can't mix this up with anything else. Only thing is you have to buy it at a pro store. I'm going to use just a dab of that on my 1/16 brush and along the high points, because it's very, very pigmented along the high points of my cheekbones. I'm even going to just buff it out back and forth. It's really, really, really pigmented. So I applied a little bit of that. And then I'm going to use another holiday pigment that usually comes out in the holiday sets from MAC. This is called Museum Bronze. It's basically like a bronzy gold, just to give it a more statuesque appearance. And if any of you guys have that Comfort mineralized skin finish from the Warm and Cozy collection that came out a few years ago, that would be really nice for this look too, if you don't want such a bronze look. I'm going to take some of that Museum Bronze. Here's what it looks like, just in case you guys want to see. Even though it's not in stores right now, it looks just like that. It's literally like kind of like a copper tone gold. I'm also going to take that and my 227 brush. I'm going to get a little bit of that pigment on the brush, and I'm going to apply this to my brow bone, kind of like as a highlight. A little bit of that gold pigment I'm going to put on top of it too. And you guys, I don't know what the exact duplicates of these colors are, but don't be afraid to get out there and do your research. Whatever you use does not have to be MAC. It really doesn't. This is just what I happen to have, and if you happen to have it too, that's awesome. We can work together. If not, that doesn't mean that this look is not achievable. You would just have to take the time to really go out there and find what things would suffice in replacement of these products. Just want to throw that out there. The lipstick that I'm using is called Spice Tea by MAC. This also came out, I want to say, with the Warm and Cozy collection, but if you don't have Spice Tea, you could probably use Coconutty, which is a permanent MAC lipstick. You can go to the store and get it right now. Don't have to be a Pro Card member or anything like that. Just think like a dark brown, bronzy gold, kind of like copper, but not too gold. And I'm not wearing this with the liner. Liner's optional. It's kind of like a warm copper tone brown. I wanted a little bit more of a glossy effect, so I'm going to apply Naked Frost lip gloss. This was also a limited product, but not to worry. You can probably use Bubbles by MAC, which is a pro product, or I can't think of anything, but I absolutely know that there's anything that's like a frosty gold. Just think frost. Cinnamon, if you have that, that will work too. You don't have to use exactly what I have. I'm going to put a little bit of that over the lip and blend out. And then on top of that, I'm going to go back to my gold pigment and my 227 brush, and kind of like as a highlighting effect towards the center of the lip, I'm just going to add some of that. So we've got a bronze gold lip. I'm going to pretty much add the hair. That's the final perk. Oh, I'm going to add mascara, and then I'm going to add the hair. That's pretty much the final tidbits of the look, and that's pretty much it. It's just really, really gold, really simple. All you have to do is wear a black toga and gold accessories, heels, and a black wig, and you're pretty much good to go. So I hope you guys like the look. Let me know if you guys have questions or any other suggestions. And thanks for watching. Bye.